Ben, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
I do appreciate your time. A warm welcome to you. And let's first of all take a look at, in preview, the front page of the Daily Nation. And it says that gloves are off as the allies of the DP, William Ruto, take on the president in a dramatic widening of the rift within the ruling Jubilee Party and the presence of ideological differences of the party formed on the 10th day of September 2016. The ruling Jubilee Party over the war on graft seems to be divisions present over the war on graft as politicians allied to the deputy president accused the president of walking back on the promises, the pre-election promise in 2013 by failing to protect what they say political and communal interests. But the ODM leader Raila Odinga, whose handshake brought some sense of political sanity in the country, says all of them are backing up the wrong person or the wrong tree. He says, if you're not guilty of the crimes being probed, why are you worried? That's in reference to Aurora and Kimwarer dams, which led to a sense of political instability within the ruling Jubilee Party. Ben, what's your take on this regarding the sense of homogeneous position within the ruling Jubilee Party? And to what effect will this be a setback, a kickback to the gains made after the multi-party democracy about 28 years from today?
Okay, a very good morning and thank you. I think for me, first, the president sometimes does make some mistakes. And his mistakes are, why do you respond to some people when they speak to you? I admire how Emilio Mwai Kibaki used to handle himself. There are people who used to come and say all sorts of ugly things about him and say all sorts of tantrums and speak on microphones. And then what he would do is to throw at them the contempt card. You don't deserve my airtime. I don't deserve to listen to your noise. I am not even listening. I think the president has an agenda. He should focus on his agenda. And his agenda, as he has made clear to us, is to fight corruption and the Big Four agenda. And I think of all the things he has ever thought about, fighting corruption is the most important thing. So what the president needs to do is to give them a serious contempt card, keep quiet, ignore them, refuse to answer them, continue fighting corruption, let them make noise everywhere they want to make noise. That's none of his problems. And that's the best way to handle such people.
He's a symbol of unity, Ben Kinuthia, and we expect him to be silent, like you rightfully put it, and don't give unnecessary airtime to individuals who really are not worth it. But it goes to a level whereby now it becomes a national interest, in the sense that, we're talking about unity. We all acknowledge that this leadership, we know Right Honorable Raila Odinga, Deputy President William Ruto, they both enjoy, some level of support, crucial support for that matter. They have a say in the country. And most importantly, we've seen how much the unity of the Jubilee Party has been of importance to the win of President Uhuru Kenyatta, in 2013 and come 2017. So how best can we say that he can keep silent and still maintain this unity and avoid all this trouble for the sake of the people of Kenya?
You see, we are forgetting one thing. Unity does not mean the president covering up for corruption. Now, if, for example, there is a corruption allegation against Kenya Power, for example, or Kengen, as it were, and there is a purge, and unfortunately, very unfortunately, it so happens that 70 or 80% of the people who were caught up in that mess happen to be Kalenjin. Is the president the man who came and appointed 80% of people to a state parastatal, making sure that they are from the same community? I think the first thing that those people who are making noise and saying their people are being targeted should do is apologize to us for having institutions that do not reflect the true face of Kenya. When you have one parastatal that has got 80% of its senior management coming from one region or one community for that matter, be it Masai, Kikuyu, Kalenjin or something, then there is a problem. And that's why you hear people saying our community is being targeted. But ask yourself, and I think I like what the Right Honorable Raila Odinga did say. If you come and find 20 people working in a parastatal and they are corrupt, you cannot go and invent other people and bring them in to the corruption bracket in the name of trying to make the war against corruption appear like it's got regional balance. You cannot start doing regional balance with corruption. If 80% of the people in a parastatal are coming from one community, what we need then to ask ourselves as Kenyans, are the other Kenyans equal in the eyes of appointments? Or do they only become equal when there are parastatal appointments happening? I usually say the best example I love is that of the city mortuary. The city mortuary is where you find bodies that show national, like unity, because there is equal opportunity.
Oh my goodness.
We don't have more people from one tribe than the other.
Okay.
And I think that's how state appointments should be. I think what we need to do is to go to a standard morgue. And when we go to a standard... No. And when we go there, let us count how many Kikuyus are there, how many Kalenjins are there, how many Maasai are there. And then we decide, okay, good, then this is how state appointments should be. I don't see why life or death has equalized so much to the point that if you went to count dead bodies, and I'm sorry to use this example, in the city mortuary, you would find that there's almost a regional balance. But when you go to appointment in state parastatals, the people you find there, there's no regional balance. And that's why you hear people saying our community is being targeted.
Okay.
But they themselves designed it and appointed their own people in those parastatals.
How realistic can that be, really, Ayub? I don't know, before you come in, because then again, when we're talking about appointments, we equally are looking at the credibility of certain individuals. So I agree to some level that, yes, we have seen other communities being represented, at a very high level that is not really genuine or is not very, good and fair. But then again, how realistic can it be for us to get the face of Kenya in some of these institutions? Don't you think it's almost impossible?
I don't think it's impossible. I think what we need to agree is that if today you walked into the University of Nairobi and you went to a science class or a place where guys are studying atomic energy, you will find all communities in Kenya represented.
Okay.
10, 15 years later, when it comes to appointment of jobs, it becomes that only Kikuyus understand that language, or only the Maasai went to a class where they were studying this kind of thing. When I was studying law at the Catholic University, my class had Luos, it had Kikuyus, it had Kalenjins, but in future, 10, 15 years from now, when my generation will be ripe to be attorney generals, you will hear only maybe Kalenjins were qualified to be lawyers, or maybe Kikuyu. Where did the others go? They went to law school, they have practice, they have law firms, and so on and so forth. I think let's not lie and sit here and say that, for example, no single Maasai is qualified to work at Kenya Power.
Okay.
Or no single Luya is qualified to work at Kengen. I think it is wrong to have that there's a monopoly of intellectualism in this country, that only people from a certain community have been to a certain level of school, and then those ones are the only ones who can fit in state parastatals. I think it is wrong.
Okay, and just pick up from that point, and I just want to put what's unraveling at the moment within the political establishment in an even slightly longer context here, because what they are lamenting about, raving and ranting about, I mean the allies of the DP, is what was not put on paper but agreed upon verbally by the president and his deputy in 2013. That the DP's camp, the URP wing of the ruling Jubilee Party, then the Jubilee Coalition, before it was amalgamated from the Jubilee Party in 2016, was given some parastatals that were specific. Didn't the political plan drawn in 2013 lead to all this? And the president is knowledgeable about this. Therefore, we cannot just see the allies of the DP or the URP wing of the ruling party from that perspective, but also need to incorporate the TNA wing that's led by President Uhuru Kenyatta and President's camp here, because all this was a political plan by the two gentlemen to lead the country. And what they are now complaining about is the lack of now putting that to implementation and protecting the interests, as to why the issues we agreed upon are not actionable at the moment, meaning politically we have been wrong from 2013. What we're being shown is just mere cosmetic treatment of what needs to be done in the war against graft, isn't it?
I think we are being insincere. What the president and the deputy president promised one another in 2013, I think they delivered. Because I'm imagining they had said to one another.
Okay, they had to be frank enough, because we need to bring these specific issues from a lesser-like perspective, because we don't want issues to just be echoed by individuals. They failed on many occasions. The DP blatantly lied about the stadiums.
No, I think we are on two different levels.
He's talking about in terms of the agreement between the two of them.
The agreement between, because you are mixed
what they were
issues.
supposed to do for
the
the people of
agreements
Kenya.
between the two of them, they had promised each other and they made it clear that they would share the government 50-50. If that had not happened, we would have had a lot of squabbles from the beginning.
And
so it means they shared the government 50-50 as they had agreed. But it was incumbent upon each of them to realize that if I am given 50% of government, and if my colleague here has 50% of government, in our appointing the people that we are appointing, we need to look, yes, I have 50%, but let me be magnanimous enough to involve the rest of the country in sharing my 50%. I cannot take my 50% of government and give it only to my community. Yeah. That is where the problem is. And secondly, in terms of I have not had the president wake up and say he's not going to support DP Ruto in 2022. And I think Kenyans get caught up in the wrong war. The war we should be fighting for right now is that Kenya has lost some 21 billion in a dam. We are not supposed to be comfortable about that. Kenya has lost money in NYS. We are not supposed to be comfortable about that. Kenya has lost money in so many corruption scandals. Kenya is indebted to China. We have bigger issues. There are people right now who, I mean, so many years after independence, who are living in a Babati house, where if you want to know whether it's morning, you peep in that hole, the sun comes from that hole. When you see the sun in this hole, it's midtime, and so on and so forth. So what needs to happen is we should be fighting not for Ruto's rights for 2022. And that's where we lose it. We should be fighting not so that Raila is president in 2022. We should be fighting so that we do not have people living in a Mabati structure so many years after independence. We should be fighting so that people have water, we have shelter, we are able to fix a meal a day, we are able to educate our children. That's what we should be fighting.
This has sounded more impossible without the unity. And we say unity of purpose, a unity of the people of Kenya. Maybe that's the reason why we saw, of course, the handshake coming up. So in the event that we see some level of differences, you know, that of this leadership, or better yet, the leaders, that will trickle down to the common mwananchi, then that would mean automatic unity will disappear. And if unity disappears, then we might not even be able to be successful in a bid to ensure that we get all these developments for the people of Kenya, and most importantly, addressing some of these issues that you have highlighted.
You see, we are deluded that Kenya needed a handshake for it to move forward. What Kenya needed is a governor not taking 2 billion shillings and putting in their account in a county that doesn't even have a sewage system. If we were to work out this country, you know, 2 billion shillings is a lot of money in a small county like Samburu. Small in terms of the population and so on. It could be big geographically. And we have another one who is facing a case, and they have another 2.5 billion hidden in one account. And that's what is known. There was one the other time who had 5 billion in their account. What this country needs is harshness on people who are stealing public money. Because if the institutions, especially the devolved units, were supposed to work, if they did work and they did deliver services to the people, people would not even be interested in who is occupying the office of the president. People would not be interested in who is governor, who is senator, who is what. The problem we have is that we glorify and edify and worship anybody who comes with corrupt money. And I think some cars should be banned from this nation. You know, when you have a car worth 12 million moving on our roads, and then we have a person who can't fix a meal a day. And those are the things that appeal to the human greed. Baka unakuta mtu ako ready kufanya chochote to be able to move in such things. We have such a huge gap between the rich and the poor. And what we need to do is to fix the real issues that affect our people.